welcome back. I did a couple of videos of Jamuary this year, a month-long music challenge that takes place in January. Spoiler, I made it all 31 days without missing a jam. Whee! This also means that I have a ton of jams to share from the month, like 10 hours. But I'm not about to run music for the next 45 in hopes you'll stick around. In this video, I'm going to talk about the case of modules that I used for all 31 days, the setup that I used to capture all the video stuff, which got pretty fun, and the music that I made in that short period of time, 31 days. And of course, jams at the end. So feel free to skip around, there's lots here. Okay, let's get into it. Here's the case that I used, my trusty Intellijel 4U 104 HP case. I call this my modular groove box no matter what modules are in here. I just like that idea. It serves the same kind of function for me. It's got decent power, it's a pretty solidly built case, aluminum, and it has some I/O that I use all the time. Some buffered mults and then this mixer that I use to sum my stereo and mono signals. I just use a stackable to normal the mono signals. It seems to work well enough for me. I picked this case over some other options for a couple of reasons. I wanted to get into 1U modules, decent build quality, be able to carry it around fairly easily, and something that looked nice. Ooh, pretty. It was also the right size between a 48X pod, which I bought originally, and the 7U 104 HP case that I hope to get in the future. Yeah, I like it. I even got the lid and bag for this to make it easier to carry around. And it does that with extra room for my power adapter, cables, recorder, whatever. That's it. So that's the case. What modules are in here? I'll go through all the modules first in groups and then touch on placement after, because I think that's a really important part in putting together a case that works really well. And in terms of groups, it's just to give a little bit of context. Obviously, modules can do more than one thing. Also, some of these modules were sent to me to check out in future videos, but this is not that feature. I'll list all the modules down in the description just for transparency, but you can always ask any questions about any of the modules here if you're looking to buy. Not every module is for everybody, but hopefully with my little bit of experience with them, I can give you a sense of if they fit your needs or not. All right, let's start with blanks. Exciting, I know. Hear me out. Yeah, there's just some pretty stuff to fill in the gaps between modules that you don't have yet. These are really sweet ghosts from Spectral. I love these. Over here, I have a couple from Emporium. This one commemorating the solar eclipse. I think this is from a photo that Ray took. I really love the way that the color separation worked out there. Gold and white, yeah, that's sweet. And this one is promoting a collab with Plinky Synth for their Blueberry module. In the jams, I also had another blank from Emporium, a really intricate one right here. It looks really great, but I recently got this one in from Modular, and that had to go in the case. I never had too many blanks before, but I'm really digging these. What I did before was make them out of illustration board. For output modules, I just have ALM HPO over here. Just a tiny no-fuss output module with one knob for volume right here. Depending on your use case, you might not need one of these, but I use headphones all the time, so this is perfect. Okay, let's talk sound sources. Like any other case rundown, I feel like I could spend forever here, but lucky for you, I've already done videos featuring 2 of these modules. Omnitone Rossi over here is a random waveform oscillator. Digital and very fun, great lights for visual feedback, and you can find out lots more in the tiny 48 HP video that I recently did. But in short, it has a big range and it's really fun to self-patch too. Then over here I have Banshee Reach, which is a digitally controlled analog oscillator with through zero phase modulation. I use this a lot over Jamuary to shape timbre through the Varishape or the suboctave crossfader by knob or CV. And then it has an octave switcher. I did a video on this too, so you can check that out if you want to know more. I can't stress how useful it is to have a flexible oscillator like one of these, especially if you're performing your patches. It just gives you another level of shaping and dynamics to reach for instead of just filtering or wavefolding. Also, I have a sample player, the Scorp Rample over here. It has drum duties for most of Jamuary. It can do a whole lot, but I tend to use it for that straightforward, reliable percussion to get the right vibe of percussion for each patch. The most used features would probably be the internal filtering, CV addressing sample layers, and the random cycling of layers. Cool, so that's generally the main stuff that makes noise. There's also noise tools up here, which has white and pink noise, and that noise sounds great, phase modulating Banshee Reach. I also use it through reverb as a wash, and also through a low-pass gate as hats, of course. Sound sources are important in the case, but the other modules are the real magic behind the patches. Some of my favorite modules are sequencers. Like you couldn't tell, there's like 5 in the case. Omnitone melody was new to me, and it's been fun to explore. Over Jamuary, I got more and more comfy using it to perform. It's a gate and pitch sequence generator. So at the push of a button, you get a new sequence. And that's based on the knob settings. You can use internal or external clock, and then run looped or as a one-shot sequence. And the trig in on cycle acts as a reset or play. One-shot mode is really cool because you can add a little melody here and there throughout your patch. And I love the Omnitone flare with this RGB light strip, which reflects pitch sequence, reset, and your knob settings. Check this out. The knob settings let you skip steps to make it more sparse, change the gate length, tie pitches over multiple steps, adjust how the pitch sequence is generated using the trend knob. Think about this as if you're feeding the sequence different modulation shapes and speeds. Change the musical scale, adjust range, and set the length from 1 to 16 steps. And then set the speed, which can go super fast, up to like 2000 BPM. If you're like me, your brain is filled with ideas about now. Variegates in here too. It's 4 channels of gates, CV, or 2 and 2 of each. It's only got 8 step per channel, but offers probability per step for gate, ratchets, and pitches. It can slew from step to step as well. One of the most used features was the divs and mults, which can be assigned per track. That's sort of a key ingredient for making longer progressions, and I used it a lot over Jamuary. Sometimes you just need a slower stepped CV voltage to transpose another pitch. I also use this a lot to modulate Euclidean beats. Oh, the clock in also operates 1 step per pulse, which can get pretty funky if you're feeding that something other than steady clock. I'm pretty sure melody is the same. Boston Neo Trinity is here. I have a whole video of me discovering this thing, and now I just love it. The flexibility and playability is great, and it brings this very forward momentum to my music. It's gate sequences, envelope sequences, LFOs, CV and pitch sequences, and lots of automation, with sample and hold to boot. In partway through Jamuary, I did a firmware update. Now I can Intellivert each track independently. Such a good feature. I use this module a lot for pitch sequencing, and since it has 6 outs, it's easy to just throw some more modulation in the case. Shachmat Knight's Gallop is over here on the end. It's a Euclidean sequencer with lots of interesting algorithms, so it's not just straight Euclidean all the time. The second output gives related rhythms depending on the modes as well. Overall, a fun sequencer to reach for and get things going quickly. I use this a lot for percussion and other rhythms, especially with the mode that fills the first half of the sequence first. It just makes musical sense. The CV ins allow for other sequencers to impact the beats that are coming out, and that's endless fun. Alright, on to Steppy. This is an Intellijel classic. It's a 4-channel chase-like gate sequencer. Each channel can be up to 64 steps, with per step probability and ratchets. You can control gate length, clock div, swing, delay, which I don't really use, probability for the channel, you can shift, and of course you can save and load all 4 channels at one time. And it has a reset in. For Jamuary, mostly I use this to sequence percussion and melodic rhythms, or also set up resets for other modules. The only thing I wish Steppy could do was change channels with 1 button instead of 3. It just trips me up sometimes. Anyway, that's a lot of sequencers, but it means I can reach for the one that serves the purpose the best, and the one that has the playability that I want. These all drive the music after all. Neo Trinity excels at melodic sequencing, punching in rhythms, and combining those things with quantization or envelopes. Variegate excels at sequences to transpose other sequences, controlling pulses for Euclidean, and clocking other modules. Melody is awesome at getting something going really quick, and letting you change the whole idea with minimal effort, then letting you refine the idea while it's in play. Knight's Gallop is a really nice density control, and a nice way to scan through possible rhythms, and Steppy is great for holding things down and keeping it predictable and easy to see. Having all these sequencers also increases the chances that whatever setting you want to change to advance your music is ready and available without having to change channels or modes. I find that's something that'll slow me down. For envelopes and modulation, there's a couple modules. Neo Trinity was already mentioned in another group, but I feel like it's equally strong as a modulation source and a sequencer. Then we got Shachmat Triple Steeple over here. I already did a video on this, so check that out if you want to know more, but I'll give you a quick rundown. It's 3 channels of envelopes operating with time and symmetry controls. So that's instead of attack and decay, and I kind of like that about it. It's got multiple modes including looping, exponential and linear response curves, and attenuation. All of that is per channel. It's got a few CV opportunities with time for each channel, and then an assignable in. That allows you to modulate one parameter on one channel or multiple. For Jamuary, I mostly use this for envelope duties, but the assignable in for symmetry, looping modes, and combined output on channel 3 were really nice in ambient patches. Next up, filtering. I have two modules in this case which are hugely different in size. First, Shakmat Centaur's Gates. It's a super flexible dual analog filter with more chill or aggressive MS-20 style filtering. It has low pass, band pass, and high pass, plus a low pass gate circuit and a VCA with feedback. There's also the addition of a Vactrol-like response, which can be applied to any of the filters. It also has 3 levels of input gain for each channel, so you can add some drive if you need. I use this a lot as a dual filter. If I needed to go from a fairly closed filter to fairly open, I could just mult the signal going into frequency and the CV. Also, your CV in can be attenuated only or attenuverted. If we look up here, I have the Spectral LPG. It's a low pass gate, a straightforward little friend doing what Vactrols do. I use this a bunch for a third tonal rhythmic element, just grabbing another out from Banshee Reach and giving it a different gate pattern. Or of course with noise to make hats. Plus it was fun to have up to 3 low pass gates in one case to mess with. Okay, effects. I only have one very small effect module in the case, and that's over here. This is Plinky Synth and Cramporium Bib. It's all over Jamuary stuff. Relatively small, it has drive, multi-tap delay, reverb, all in this tiny module. You can also use it as an output to your Intellijel case, running a stereo signal on one TRS. Sounds great, and it's pretty full featured. You give up a little bit on the knob per function, having it in this size, but the interface is really nicely done. This strip at the bottom is used to select the different controls, and that's reflected in this colorful knob here. Then, as you adjust knobs, your changes are reflected on the RGB knob. You can also edit the colors of the knob if you connect this to your computer and go to their website. I changed this one to yellow. There's more. If you slide your fingers back and forth like this, it creates tape wobbles. And if you press hard here, it actually stops the tape entirely. Up here, the spider has a bunch of different features. You can create a pattern for your multi-tap delay to follow, or that's how you activate shimmer. Alright, let's talk utilities. There's more magic here. Just over here, we have the Spectral A01. This is a tiny module for attenuverting and offset. These two functions are super useful across modular to get control of your signals or change them up on the fly. I use this a lot over Jamuary just to constrain pitch sequence ranges or change them higher, lower, or transpose sequences and change up the feel as I was going. It's also really good to dial in the sequence because I was using a quantizer after it. Oh, also I did mention it would be a cool idea to have 2 of these and a little mixer. There might be a tiny surprise in the future that chases down that idea. Next, Intellijel noise tools. Super useful module. We've got noise, sample and hold, or track and hold, and it's got sloop, which I love. Oh, and it also has a burst generator that I never use. Mainly, I use this as clock all throughout Jamuary. That's one of the main reasons that I bought it actually. That, and the combination of other features. Then over here we have Shakmat Bard Quartet. This is definitely one of my favorite modules, and I love the way that quantizers work. This is a quad quantizer, but it has a lot of extra goodies. It has an ARP mode, sample and hold or track and hold, transposition, octave shifting, and a knob that basically holds the presets of all of those settings so that you can shift right through them. This knob is definitely one of the most powerful features because it allows you to scan through and change a whole patch very quickly. And keep in mind, this doesn't have to just be used for pitch. Think of it as stepped voltage. And you have a lot of control over how that stepping is happening and can preset it. Anyway, check out the 2 kind of older videos that I have on that if you're interested in learning more. Then the last module here, we have Happy Nerding 3XMIA. This is such a smart module for attenuverting and offset, but also mixing. It's basically 3 channels of paired inputs. And then if nothing is plugged in, it's an offset. These switches allow you to pass the pair down to the next input and the next input. So you can mix and match and do all sorts of stuff. Over Jamuary, this was my main mixer. I also used it for muting and parallel mixing, making 2 mixes, one to send out dry and one to send out through bib. Just lots of uses for this one. And it's able to be the size that it is because these knobs actually stack. A couple notes on placement. You'll notice that I have a bunch of things kind of scattered around the case. They aren't grouped in dedicated voices or anything like that, and that's mainly because that changes per patch. And there's no linear flow from one side to the other either. And why is my output module in the middle? A lot of these decisions are made very much on purpose. I tend to group modules by manufacturer, so I have a little bit of a shack map party going on here, but that just helps me find modules that I'm looking for, and it brings some visual cohesion to different sections. I also tend to group the silver panels together, again, just a visual thing. I just think it looks more striking. I tend to structure things with a lot of consideration as to where the jacks and the knobs are. So you'll see with the shack mount modules here, all of these with the jacks at the bottom are all together. Night Scallop is over here on the end. I have the filter here in the middle, and then two almost mirrored modules to the left and right. That's for easy access to the knobs, but it also looks cool. And over to the right of Banshee Reach is Barred Quartet, with a lot of space to get to these knobs and these buttons, because I'm right-handed. There's a section down here with Neo Trinity and Variegate that's open also, so that I can access that easily. And Rossi and Melody are together like this, so that the jacks are on the outsides, so the patch cables go out versus over top of the knobs. I could see these maybe going to the edge, but I think that would be really weird for an oscillator to be right on the edge. Jacks wise, it would allow these jacks to like drape the cables out of the case, which I tend to do a lot. 3XMIA and Rample are kind of clustered together. These jacks on 3XMIA are really tight and Rample is a little bit more open, so they kind of balance each other out. Plus 3XMIA being used as a mixer a lot, having easy access to that on this side just makes a lot of sense. Then I have HPO here in the middle because it's a little bit more convenient to run things to the output in the middle versus all the way to one side. And for the 1U, I think I just got accustomed to having Steppy over here on this side. Again, right-handed, and then Noise Tool just goes along with that. AO1 and LPG over here, just to give a little bit of space from 3XMIA, which serves a similar function. And Bib is over here, because hopefully it's a little bit less clustered. It gets really cramped in these two little knobs, with jacks surrounding the two sides. And you need to be able to get to the little spider. Overall, the placement's pretty ergonomic, so I can get in and play all the parameters, or get to everything that I need to. Yes, modular as wires, it's a little bit of chaos and a spaghetti mess, but I've definitely embraced a certain style of organizing within the chaos. Cool, so that's probably about everything you might want to know about the case and more. Let's take a look at the setup that I used for the jams, because that got pretty fun too. First off, I have a camera there, and I have a camera up here. I have an old Sony here, and that's my main camera. I mostly shoot on this wide lens, and this is probably the most standard way to have it, just on a tripod that I've had forever. And here's the top-down setup you just saw. It's just an iPhone, not a super new one either. I have this piece of wood attached to this shelf with a C-clamp way in the back, and it just hangs over this little cart in the middle of the room. And the wood has this friction arm attached to it, and I use this sweet magnet mount for my phone. I just have to twist it to the right spot until it is even. I also have this mirror that I use to see what's on the screen because there's a piece of wood in the way, and it's more convenient than getting a stool. I use the Blackmagic app on my phone for a little bit more control. That way there's no weird color shifts or anything that goes on in the middle of a shot. That stuff can be super annoying, really hard to work with. It's been pretty solid for me so far, and I love that there's a histogram and exposure tools, all sorts of stuff going on. Check it out if you're looking for something and you just have a phone. It works great. Did I mention that I use this rather large iPad as a monitor for my camera? Yeah, no flippy outy screen on this camera meant that I needed something. And with a little HDMI dongle here, it works really well. And for audio, I usually have one of these stashed somewhere. Just a little wireless lab. And because my camera doesn't have a mic in, I usually record audio on my phone and sync in post. I got this light from a good friend, and it's been amazing. It's a 100-watt bicolor COB. Thumbs up. That's bright. Oops. Yeah, I didn't have the softbox for most of Jamuary, so I spent a bunch of time just using foam core and other things to modify the light. Check out the background there. Whenever you can, stay curious about stuff. It's just fun that way. This is a selfie stick with some foam core and a little phone mount. Oh, we need one more thing. Nope. Over this. bounce this down. But yeah, I don't look too bad like that. Without this, and with it, play with your lights. This is a desk mount camera stand. It can be mounted horizontally like this, and then I can attach a light, a camera, a piece of foam core. I actually used this to make a big sun splash one day. I got this cheap light modifier that allows me to have a circle of light. It's pretty cool. What about color? I got this light over the holidays and it's bright and colorful. Look at that saturation. I had a ton of fun with this and this other tiny light that I already had. I have fairly minimal experience with this kind of stuff, but I'm just messing around and learning. That's pretty much it though. 2 cameras, a couple lights, a mic, my recorder of course, some questionable stands and rigging, and time. That's the behind the scenes tour. What exactly did I make? I set out to do a jam every day of Jamuary, and I did it. And I have over 10 hours of footage and music to show for it. That's not behind the scenes stuff, that's just 2 cameras rolling with my recorder. That's a lot of time. And it would take me literally forever to go through and edit the same way I did the first 8 jams. It's just too much. So I'm just gonna do my faves. I don't know how I'm gonna pick. I was honestly surprised about the amount of music that I made all in 1 month. If you're stuck working on an album, maybe doing a challenge like this to get some thought starters going would be a good idea, says the guy who's never made an electronic album. Jamuary was a really cool and rewarding experience, and a nice project for a cold, dark month. Mentally tiring for sure. I'm happy that I went for it though, and that I did all those extra lighting setups too. I learned a lot, and it feels like a big accomplishment. My favorite part was probably just being in it. You know, the journey. I found it easy to get wrapped up in a patch or a setup, and it felt like a really positive way to spend my time. Would I do it again? I think next time I might just do a simple jam every day and post on Insta. In fact, I might just post these jams over there over the next month. But there's always that opportunity. I mean, I could wrap up this Jamuary stuff into an album. As ever, so many opportunities. In terms of modules, I was really surprised I didn't switch anything out over the month. I have other new modules to mess with, but there's something nice about having a lockdown instrument for the whole time and just pushing more and more music out from it. Kinda cool. If you're about to dig in to start a music challenge, good luck. I hope you have a positive experience like I did. If I have any advice, it would be take it one day at a time and try not to make it overly complicated, unless that's part of the challenge. And yeah, don't make the first or the last a specific thing just because you think it ought to be. Just see what comes out and take the pressure off. Anyway, if you made it this far, you might as well like and subscribe. I make videos about modular synths and occasionally do things that are a little bit extra, like this one. I have a bunch more videos to make before my kiddo's summer vacation, so definitely look out for those. Thanks for watching, I really appreciate it. And if you want to do something extra to keep these videos coming, feel free to buy me a coffee. If you've never heard of it, Buy Me a Coffee allows you to give a one-time donation about the cost of coffee, just to keep things buzzing along. Yeah, link down in the description. Anyway, here are the jams that I promised. Signing off for now. Happy patching, happy January.